The Run Lift Mom podcast is brought to you by my efforts as a Zaya Active independent representative and partners Hello Woofy for social media, Red H Nutrition, and Audible. Audible is the newest of this lineup, and if you want to try Audible free, all you've got to do is visit audibletrial.com/runliftmom. Welcome to the Run Lift Mom podcast, where we're talking about running, lifting, and momming, not necessarily in that order. Today, we're squarely in the momming category with Emily from Cozy Clicks, which is a website for new and intermediate portrait photographers. Emily is the mom of 4 kids, a portrait photographer, photography and Photoshop educator, and the host of the Stay Focused podcast. She helps moms take and edit better pictures of their kids. She's going to help us specifically with how to take pictures with a phone, okay, so if your camera's on your phone, as well as where and how to print those photos. All sorts of great tips in this episode, so without further ado, here's Emily from Cozy Clicks. All right, welcome Emily Supio to the Run Lift Mom podcast. How are you today?
Hi, Susie. I am great. Thank you so much for having me.
I am so thrilled to have another mom of 4 on the show. Tell us a little bit about yourself, Emily.
Well, Susie, like you, I am a mom of 4, and my kids are all under the age of 12. Well, my oldest is going to be 12 next week. So, tween ages 2 to 6 years old. I am a photographer and a photography educator. And yeah, my kids, they kind of take over my life. So I'm a mom first and foremost, and then everything else kind of follows.
Oh, I love that. I mean, also mom first and foremost, but I love how, you've really made your passion fit into motherhood in the realm of your photography.
I have, because, I've always been a really creative person. I've also been just a motherly person. I was a preschool teacher for a long time before I had kids, elementary teacher. So I've always had that kind of motherly passion to me. And then, obviously I had 4 kids of my own. So I've always loved that. But I always wanted, that creative piece to me to just enwrap everything in my life. And so I kind of went full circle after I had kids and went back to that creative side and, included photography into my life and taking pictures of my kids and, became a photography educator. So I kind of took both of those pieces, that education and that creative piece, and just put it all together.
Now, when you say educator, do you mean like you teach other photographers how to have a photography business?
Not so much the business piece, but I teach a lot of moms and really a lot of grandmoms too, how to take better pictures of their kids, their grandkids, how to make it more fun to take pictures of their kids and really understanding the camera. And then for those people that really like that creative process, I teach a lot about Photoshop and how to, create more magic in their pictures once they understand how to work the camera. So that's what I'm teaching people now. Not so much the business part, but just how to shoot and how to edit.
Well, I love that because, of course, you're on the other side of the country and I can learn from you. What do your kids think of this? Like, what do your kids think of you giving the tips, using them as subjects every so often, going off to shoot? What do they think of it?
Well, first, I think, I wanted to always model to my kids that, they could be entrepreneurs and they could follow their creative dreams. And so I like to be able to model that for them and show them all the time that, yes, you guys are also part of my business too, by modeling and helping people learn too. So I like to be able to always show that and model that to them, that, just that behavior of being able to take your dreams and being able to do something creative. Now, do they always like to have their picture taken? No, they don't. Actually, they get a little sick of it sometimes. So I've got to pick and choose between my 4 kids who's in the mood to have their picture taken. And I don't always want to, have the camera in their face. So I try to make it, as fun as I can for my kids when they're getting their picture taken so they continue to enjoy it. So sometimes it's not, forcing them to have their picture taken or forcing them to pose for the camera or always getting them to look or smile. Sometimes I just take pictures of them, being kids and doing their own thing. Sometimes my girls love to get dressed up. So sometimes we go out and we shop for accessories or, gowns or dresses or fun clothes to make it more exciting, or we'll add food to our photo shoots. So it's a lot more fun for them to have their picture taken.
Listeners, when you get to your phone, I know a lot of you are running or lifting right now as you're listening to this, but you can see a lot of Emily's photos its Instagram handle is @CozyClicks. Now, she's got clients on there as well as her kids, and your work is beautiful.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
I love, we're talking about modeling healthy behavior this season, so I love that you point out that regardless of what they do in the future, they have seen you go after a dream and work toward it and be an entrepreneur, do the things that embody that spirit.
Exactly. And I always try to point that out to them too, that, I kind of followed my dream and I went after 2 things that I really enjoyed, which was the creative side and that artist kind of side and that educator in my heart. And I made it happen for me and what I wanted to do. And so I want them to see that, they can follow their dreams too, whether they want to be an artist or an educator or, a doctor or lawyer or whatever they want to do. I want to model that they can do that.
Now, I cannot have a photography instructor on without asking some tips. So most listeners probably are taking shots of their kids on their phones. Do you have any tips for us?
Definitely. And now I know that just like you said, a lot of people that are listening right now, you probably are taking pictures on your phone. You might even have gotten one of the, fancy DSLR cameras and you thought it was going to take great pictures, but really you don't have an idea of how to use it. And that's okay too. You can take great pictures of your kids no matter what camera you have if you step back and you think about some of these things that I'm going to share with you guys. So the first thing I want you to do is, just like I was saying earlier, make it fun for your kids. Don't always think that you have to have them looking right at you and smiling at the camera and big eyes and super cute. Sometimes the best pictures are the ones where you're just kind of stepping back and taking pictures of them just doing their thing. And I think those are the ones that you're going to want to remember in the future anyways. But if you're looking to get like more professional type looking pictures, and you can do that even with a camera phone, light is what you really want to pay attention to. And when I say light, I don't mean like you have to have, the fancy light setups and the big light stands and soft boxes. You don't need any of that at all. You can work with natural light, the night light that is coming in through the windows of your house or the light from outside. But light is super important. So if you're trying to set up a shot where you want it to look more professional, and again, even with your phone, really look at the light. And when I talk to moms, a lot of times I say, like, when you look in the mirror and the light is good or not, and you see, bags under your eyes or heavy shadows, and you're like, ooh, I don't look good in that light. Well, it's the same for, photography. And it's the same when you look at your subject or you look at your kids, even though, your kids we all think they're cute in every way. But if you look at the light and how the light is hitting their face, if there's heavy shadows or if it looks unflattering in real life and you're really paying attention to that, it's going to look bad in your picture too. So right off the bat, if you're just really focusing on your light source and how the light is hitting the face and how the light is causing shadows and highlights, you're going to get great pictures. So if it doesn't look good, just move them around a little bit, reposition them until the light looks more beautiful and falls more naturally on them. So that's kind of the biggest thing. If you want the pictures of your kids to look more professional, is really focus on that light.
So let's say I'm setting up the 4 Goodwin kids to have their picture made. Do I want the light behind them or do I want the light behind me with the camera?
Well, if the light is facing them directly, and I work a lot of times with natural light. So if you just,
So get them outside
if you think of the light hitting them, what is their face going to look like if that sun is right, if it's behind you and facing them? Well, they're probably going to be lit up really pretty, but their faces are going to be all squinty. Their eyes are going to be squinting. They're going to be, wincing their mouth. So you don't necessarily want to always have the light directly on them, especially in the sun. You could have the light behind them. Sometimes that messes and plays tricks with the camera and the settings on the camera, even on phone cameras. A lot of times I do light my subjects from behind, but the best lighting is really called open shade, which is finding an area that is shady or shaded, like maybe trees, where the trees are creating a lot of heavy shade, or your garage. If you opened up your garage, inside the garage is very shady, or the edge of a building, somewhere that's created a lot of solid shade. And that's going to give you great smooth lighting over the faces. Now, open shade means that there's light in front of them. So it's not necessarily direct light or direct sunlight, but there's just light coming in. So your subject stands in the shade and you stand in the light. And I know that might be hard to kind of wrap your head around, but if you can kind of visualize going back to that garage setting, if you opened up your garage door, you know that the garage is shady. And if it was a sunny day, there would be light outside of the garage. So you would be standing outside, and your subjects would stand inside, and that would be perfect light. And you can find open shade like that in lots of places in the environment.
Yeah, so now I know why we've seen so many photos with families under barn overhangs and that kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow, that is awesome. Thank you so much. So listener, get in the light. Think about finding that shade. That's really, really great tip. Can you talk to us a little bit? So you mentioned we've got our phones. Should we be cleaning the lens or cleaning the phone screen? Does that affect the photos at all?
Well, yes, it would. I mean, if your screen is dirty, then the pictures are going to have that filter over it. It's going to be like a dirt filter, just like any filter we throw on Instagram. So yeah, you want to make sure you're cleaning the lens. If you're working with like a DSLR camera, like maybe you have one of the Canon Rebel series, I know are really popular with a lot of moms or a lot of people that are just kind of starting out dabbling with photography. You want to clean your gear all the time, but if you're not sure how to do it, you might want to take your camera into a camera shop or send it into Canon if you're not sure, just so you don't mess around with and break or scratch some of the more, expensive lenses that are out there. So if you're not sure how to do it on a fancier or more expensive camera, that's what I would recommend.
Wonderful. And then finally, I have to ask, so let's say we get that perfect shot, yay, on our iPhone or whatever it might be. Do you have a go-to for online printing if we want it printed and displayed in our home?
Yes, and I'm so glad you asked this question because this is super important, and most people don't realize that all print labs are not created equally. So if you print your picture, let's say at Costco or Shutterfly or Walgreens, or, there's so many different places. If you went and printed the same picture and then looked at all of them from different labs, they're all going to look a little bit different because different labs put more of different colors into their printing. The place I love, it's an online site. It's called mpix.com. And it is I think, one of the best consumer labs for printing your work. So, and that's just mpix.com. I have found it's most true to what you see on your camera. So the colors will come up true. One more tip with that too is when you go to print your pictures, there's always like a small little tick box that you'll see that says autocorrect option. Always make sure that one is unchecked, because when you check that box, that's telling the lab that it's going to make the corrections that they want to, and it could be very random. So if you want it to look like the picture that you took and those colors, make sure you always uncheck that box. And most of the time it's going to be checked for you automatically. So unclick that auto color correct.
Okay. Oh, I love it. Emily, thank you so much for these tips. Depending on where you're listening, you can either swipe up or you're going to click the hyperlink that says details. You're going to see all of Emily's information, including that beautiful Instagram account that I was talking about, all of her web stuff. And Emily is a podcast host herself, the Stay Focused podcast. Emily, do you mind taking us out with just letting us know what that's about?
Sure. So if, as you're listening, you're thinking, I'd like to know even more about photography, because photography is such a just huge beast of a creative field. And there's so many more tips and so much more to learn. My podcast, the Stay Focused podcast, focuses more on, specific learning tips and techniques and what you can do in the camera to really start taking better and more professional looking pictures. I even talk on the podcast about creating your own business in the future. So I do have some guests on there. So if that's kind of the avenue that you want, I also include guests on the show that can help you create your own photography business too.
Well, that just came full circle. Thank you so much, Emily. I appreciated having you on.
Thank you for having me, Susie. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much for listening to the Run Lift Mom podcast. I want to let you know that you can swipe up in the podcast player that you're in to see the show notes. That's going to take you to my website and you're going to get a deep dive on today's show. Cool, huh? You can think of it as a blog post that complements what was covered today with all of the links and resources discussed. Don't forget to check out the podcast partners as well with some really great offers for you. And until I get into your earpiece again, remember, for while bodily training is of some value, godliness is of value in every way, as it holds promise for the present life and also for the life to come. That's from 1 Timothy 4:8, and this has been the Run Lift Mom podcast. Katie Danger with Red H Nutrition. Katie, I like Formula H so much. I put my name on the first round of your Skittles, and you've recently sent a sample of the cherry limeade, and I'll tell you, it is a big fat dilemma for me now because I don't know which flavor I like better. Tell me, though, about how it works.
Well, first, you hit on the main point. It tastes great, and it's got to taste good in order for somebody to enjoy it. So it works because we've got a fully transparent label. If you look at the back, everything's listed. You know exactly what you're getting, but those ingredients are synergistically combined to get you to have the endurance and stamina to go the distance in your workout without the jitters and no crash.
All right, it's time for the review of the week. If I read off your review, all you've got to do is reach out to me and I will send you your choice of Zaya Active leggings. Yes, it is that easy, so make sure that you are rating and reviewing. This one is from Paltrowitz. Paltrowitz says, a cool motivational podcast. Susie talks the talk and walks the walk. Glad I discovered this podcast. Thank you so much. Reach out to me, runliftmompod.com/contact or at runliftmompod@gmail.com for those leggings. Hey, Run Lift Mom listeners. You know I'm the mom of 4 kids under age 5, and therefore I am always looking for ways to work smart, not hard. Anchor is the smartest way to make a podcast. Let me tell you why. First of all, there are creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. But Anchor will also distribute your podcast for you, so then it can be heard on places like Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and a whole lot more. You can make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. It is quite literally everything you need all in one place. And y'all, it's free. So download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. Even though this is a presidential election, there are many more candidates on the ballot besides the president. Go to Ballot Ready for a nonpartisan guide to your entire ballot. From there, you can compare candidates based on stances on issues, biography, or endorsements, and save your choices to use when you vote by mail or in the voting booth. You can even request your absentee ballot or make a plan to vote early or on Election Day. This election matters. Make sure you have a plan to vote and stay informed. You can go to ballotready.org and enter your address to make a plan to vote and vote informed.
Thank you for listening to One with Mom. This show is sponsored by